Welcome back, y'all. It's your boy Damn Day up in the building. Welcome back to the Black Evolution. And today, got a very special guest. She's a speaker, a leader, a wisdom teacher. Give it up for Miss Grand Elder. How you doing, Grand Elder?
I'm doing well today. Thank you much.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So today on the Black Evolution, we're gonna talk about one topic: Ron Desantis and Black history. Let's get into it.
All right, that's it. Okay.
Yeah. So. Yeah, Ron Desantis, Ms. Grand Elder. So it's always a pleasure of having you on here, and we got to get into it. We're going to talk about Mr. Ron Desantis and what he's been doing with Black history over there, talking about this is where woke goes to die. What are your overall thoughts on Ron DeSantis, what he's doing down in Florida?
You want the good, you want the nice part, or you want the other part?
Hey, I want the full story over there. What you think?
Mr. DeSantis, I'm still trying to figure out where this guy, where he came from. What his end game is to become president of the United States. That's his end game. But what he's doing in Florida, it just does not make any kind of sense to any. At least doesn't make sense to me, because he just started off with, okay, we're going to get rid of the. Actually, let me back up a little bit. This actually started with that CRT, with that critical race theory. I never heard of Ron DeSantis until they had this school board meeting. And I remember one woman getting up yelling about, she'd never heard of it, and this is critical race theory. And after that, it seemed to have sort of spilled over into the county or whatever the mayor is, or the governor's mansion. And the next thing we know, Mr. DeSantis was out there talking about how bad Black history was. So I'm going, okay, what was the point? Why did he decide that he should start talking about Black history, that it's not good, that, white kids feel uncomfortable when you're talking about it? And is this going to help make him president of the United States? Because he was probably one of Trump's boys. So, I'm kind of trying to figure out exactly where we want to go with this. Do we want to talk about why he's doing it, what he's doing? It seems as if Mr. DeSantis has decided that he's going to take on the mantle of showing people, or being, I don't know exactly how to put this, but in other words, that discrimination is good. Discrimination is fine. He started off, I think, with Disney, saying that, oh, don't say gay. That's how he started off. He didn't start off with talking about Black history. He started off with the gay. And I don't know where that came from. And he went from the gay to the Black. So now he decides, okay, talking about the Black people and African-American history and getting it out of the schools, that's my big thing, because that's what people really want to see more about. And if you think about it, he's trying to put the gay and Black history in the same, in the same context, but you can't do that. You got to do one or the other. Because if you look at the gay rights movement, that's basically a white movement. The Black folks just happen to fall into it because they may be part and part, but that's basically a white movement, not African American. So what he's trying to do is put them together. Well, I can talk about the gay, but wait a minute, let me see, maybe I can put this in, maybe I can get the African American part and the history part out, that we don't want to have to deal, let's put it this way, with the Negroes, all right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking. He uses one to play against the other. It's like, you in the playground and you got a good friend and you want that person to create an issue while you beating up somebody down in the next corner. So I think that's kind of what he's tried to do, to see which one is going to propel him into the White House. That man has no more interest in whether the school got Black history and move. That's just something he's
Yeah, I think my overall thoughts on Ron DeSantis is basically he's just basically being a career politician, do whatever he wants to do, and just be like, I want to get the presidency. I want to be like Trump, so I'm gonna be all this anti-racist, anti-black rhetoric, and be like, oh well, this is where woke goes to die. We standing up against woke. We standing up to the woke mob. We not having it over here in Florida. We're with Black history, this and that. We're going to take it down. This is where woke goes to die. And that, thank God for Al Sharpton coming down there and telling me, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
You can't do that.
No, you can't. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know. It's just absolutely. I cannot. It's like I would do something dumb like that. You know, you would not expect someone who's supposed to have a little bit of education and be politically astute to do something that dumb. It's just not going to fly. He may think he's going to be president, but these people don't realize that it is of you. And that's the problem. All of this comes under one head. You're trying to get rid of, I don't know whether you're trying to get rid of black folks, everybody you want this to be, you want to be an autocrat, you want to be the king, or whatever. You want to be something like Putin. That's who you want to be, but you can't do that in the United States. That's just not going to work. Just because we don't jump up and down and, go out and shoot up the street and all that, you're not going to be able to do that. You can't take half of the country and say, well, we're going to make, this is going to be the black half like Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is going to be the black half, and this is going to be the white half. You simply cannot do that. You can try, but it's not going to work. And Mr. Desantis is trying his damnedest to do that. And first of all, how are you going to teach these children? How are these children going to manage if they go outside the state of Florida? Is Florida going to be a separate country unto itself with Mr. Desantis saying this is what Florida is going to be? What happens if he loses, if he does not become president? What does he do then? What happens to black history? What happens to the colleges, that sort of, I'm putting this in quotes, caved because, he wanted to change a thing, and some of the college said, okay, college board said, we'll put it here, we'll place it. That was not what you should have done. You should have been able to stand up to him. But then it's all about the money, So I'm just very upset about the whole thing.
I feel like I agree with you, sister. I agree with your grand elder that I feel like it's disgraceful what he's doing over there.
It is. But I mean, you got to stop and think about it. The man does not realize that it's not going to happen that way. You're just not going to get rid. I don't care how you do it. We are not going anyplace. You have to understand that, Mr. DeSantis, and anyone else, whites, all the rest of you guys, you got to understand we're not going anyplace. And let me put it to you like this. We're not going anyplace because you brought us over here. We didn't decide we wanted to come to this wonderful, good old U.S. of A. Wasn't U.S. of A then, but we did not decide we wanted to come. You brought us here. So why should we leave? Think about that. That's the way I look at it. Listen, I didn't ask to come here. I'm here and I'm staying. You say, this is my country, and this is where I'm staying. That's just the bottom line. I look at race through a whole another prism than what somebody else looks at it. A lot of people look at it as, I'm African American and this is black history. All is well and good, but you have to know why. Why are we dealing with? Why do people put you here and make you think that you are less than somebody else? You have to understand the reason why you are where you are. We don't seem to understand that. I love Sharpton. I love all the people that fought. And because I was out there when it was time for the march up and down. Believe me, I was out there raising money. When somebody went to jail in Alabama, we were raising money right here in New York, right here in Westchester County. We were raising money to get them out of jail. We had people that went down there, took buses and went down to wherever they had to protest in Alabama. I have family that's from Alabama. So, we were part of it. But the thing about it is we have to now decide, okay, what are we going to do? We've got that part. But now they're going to take your voting rights away from you. So black folks have got to look beyond, go and look up your ancestors. These are the footprints that I walked in at Howard University. I hate that commercial. I really, really do. I see it on TV when they're talking about the black colleges. And they show people that are up there looking at their ancestry, and okay, that's fine. But you got to figure out how did they get to where they are. People don't realize that at one time, Congress was black. You do know that. Congress was black, but then they had Jim Crow, they had the Klan, they had all of these people came in and said, we don't want, let's throw these black folks out. And they took over the Congress. So we have to look at it and we have to take back something, but I don't know exactly how we're going to do it. It's almost an impossibility.
I feel like basically in order for us to take back and everything, we have to basically own and control our narrative and own and control who we listen to and own and control who tells us, who educates us and everything. And we can't just let other people educate us in terms of our history. We have to look into it ourselves and dig into the history, not just one Black American history. Go back further than that. Go back to the African kingdoms, the Igbo people, the Dahomey.
Exactly.
They just told about the woman king, but that's really it. They need to spend about the Igbo people, other black queens and kings.
Exactly. And that's exactly what DeSantis is looking at. He said, they don't know anything. They don't know anything about that. He said, I know more about my history. I know more about DeSantis and Italian history than he'll ever know about it. And that's what I want. How do you stand there? My name is, whatever his name, Ron Desantis? Sounds like somebody I know. Said Ron Desantis, but so Ron, where did you come from? Where's your ancestors? What did your ancestors do? How did they get to this country? Does he realize that some of his ancestors came here and they were slaves? Well, part of this, do you not understand, Mr. DeSantis? If you were a teacher, you should know your history. You should know some of this. You have Chinese came here, they came here as slaves. How do you think we got all these railroads and things built across this country? The Irish came here as indentured servants. They were slaves. Nobody got into this country that was not a slave. And the white folks is trying to make us slaves. Are woke? You need to be woke. Because you came here as a slave. You just don't realize it, but you said, we deal with the color of a skin. And like somebody said, I don't care what you do, you can cut us and we'll bleed red. That's So it's I don't know. Black history is very difficult to understand, and it's very difficult to talk about, because for the last week I've been going through everything I possibly had or could find in reference to race. And you know why people do things that they do in terms of race. It's a hard subject, and it's a long subject.
It's hard and long, and sometimes you go through, you see the painful stuff and just the trauma, and just not just with Tulsa, and just with every other massacre that happened. There's one in Wilmington that happened where they just ran them out, took over.
That's it. That's just exactly what they did. They just take and run you out of town, get out of town, or you've done something and you're supposed to go. They don't realize that somebody brought them. It just boggles me that people don't realize that in order to know your history, you have to go back further than what happened, say, in 1925, in 1939. You have to go back further than what happened in the 1900s. My grandfather was born in 1869. His mother and father, he was born to slaves. He was free. He was a free man. His mother and his father had just became free. They had just, slaves was free at that time. That slave was whoever he was. Lincoln said, okay, you guys go on, you free. His parents was free. But he was born 5 years after they became free. But let's say free in quotations, because they really weren't free. They said they were free, but they were still on the plantation. They were lucky because the people who owned them, the Murphys, gave them their land in Georgia. A lot of people have land down there in Georgia that was given to them by whoever their slave owners were in this little small town. A lot of little small towns like that. If you look at maybe your own family, you may find where, like, over 200 years ago, the property that was given to them it was given to their family member. When the slavery was, this is what you give to them because they're free. They don't have anything. That's where that 40 acres and a mule came from. You give your person that's being free, give them 40 acres and a mule, and they go from there. That's where that came from. So that's where we need to be looking, because if we don't look that far, we don't know anything. We just, okay, I'm an African American, and then there was some, and we were slaves, and come on.
Yeah, this is why. Yeah, and going on, I want to add on to this, where you have quote unquote pseudo historians who say, "Oh, well,
Exactly.
before we were slaves, we were Moors. No, before that, we were Indians. No, before that, we were Hebrew Israelites. See, it's about us." I'm like, because they don't know anything.
They
They just
don't
want
know
to
what
they want to claim that they're Hebrew Israelite or Moors
Moors and
and
all of that, yeah, Spanish Moors and all of the. Listen, if people really have to go back, come on, go back to Columbus. Go back to Columbus when he came to America. He didn't discover America because it was never lost. And I hate Columbus discovered America. It was never lost. Nobody lost it and they found it all of a sudden. No, it wasn't lost. It was always here. You just didn't know where it was, so it wasn't lost. You just happened to see it. It's like I'm walking down South 7th Avenue and I say, oh, well, damn, there's Kingsbridge Road. Kingsbridge Road was never lost. It's been there all the time. I just happened to find it. That was it. And that's the same thing, because they came as Spanish, Moors, Portuguese was here. Jamaicans were slaves. They came over here, they were slaves. And the only reason they Jamaican is because that's where they dropped them off. They had too many of them on the boat. So they said, well, there's too many people on the boat. We don't want to dump them in the water, so put them over here where we saw all these trees. Put them out there. So that's where a lot of I don't know how it became named Jamaica, because I haven't got that far into that. But that's why there's Jamaica, because they had to leave some of the slaves there. They could not bring all the slaves into wherever they were trying to take them. So therefore they became, and now Jamaica's become Jamaican Americans. Jamaica is a country. It's not a person, a place, or a thing. It's a country. So just because you were born in Jamaica, you become a Jamaican American. You are an African. That's all you are. And I know people get upset when I say, but read the book, read your history book. You will find that out for yourself. Because everybody that was being brought here they all couldn't bring them to this country. This far. They had to throw a lot of people overboard, and the one that they could, they'd leave them in these different places in South America, in what they call the Americas. It's a big. It's Black history is a lot of history.
yeah, and also I noticed, yeah, to add on to it, also I noticed when they talk about Black history, they start we were slaves and stuff. They don't go back any further, or they don't tell you about the countless other slave rebellions that happened. They don't tell you about the Haitian Revolution that happened in Haiti over there,
That's right. They
and
don't
Toussaint
tell you.
Desalegn, and yeah, they don't tell you about that.
You have to know about that. The other thing with Black history and with us, we are our worst enemy. And I don't mean that derogatory. I mean it in a sense that we are a tribal nation. Black people are tribes. We are tribes. It's in our DNA. You will never take it out. If you think about it, you think about it. Think about how you gravitate a sort of person, a group, or a religion, or a church, or a store. You gravitate toward those particular people, places, and things. That's tribal. That's because some of your tribesmen are there. I don't care which way you cut it. Our tribe, my tribe, or Yuba. That was our tribe. If you know where you came from, that's your tribe. So you need to find your tribe.
Yeah, my tribe is Guichi. I'm from the Guichi tribe.
Exactly.
Guichi tribe.
And once you know where your tribe is, then you go, oh, okay, that's cool. I know who that is. That's who we are, and we're always fighting again. But you know why it happens like this with us? Because we don't know our tribe, because we're ignorant. We haven't been taught. Whatever was in the school, a lot of the people in the school, the teachers that knew about it, they passed it on, but somehow in all the years of the education and teaching, it got lost. So we didn't know what tribe we belonged to, because when we came to the United States, I have to say the United States, but when we came here, we didn't speak the same language to each other. I didn't know any more about what your tribe was talking about than a man in the moon. We did not speak the same language. My language was different. Yours was different. What we did was different. How we cultivated land was different. What we ate was different. We were from different tribes. And that's what people don't understand. I say, well, we don't get along because, we're from different tribes. And I know we're not. I just let the conversation drop right there because there's no point in continuing it. But that's, so what I'm looking at now is I understand, the issue with Mr. Desantis, whom I dislike a hell of a lot. I dislike him more than I dislike Trump. Trump is an idiot, so that's all I can say about that. But DeSantis is an extremely dangerous man. He is dangerous. Believe me, he is one day, because Trump would not have had the nerve. He was in office for 4 years, and if you think for 1 minute that Trump would have had every school in the United States out, no more Black history. Trump did not have the nerve to do that. Only DeSantis, somebody like that, would have the nerve to decide that I'm going to get rid of all the Black history. I'm going to get rid of it altogether because we don't need it in this country. This is my country. This is our country.
This is a country for white folks. That's all it is. All white history.
All white history. And the white folks swear that they got good stuff going on, but I got something for them. You just let this continue. Just let me keep getting on your show, and I'll show them where they came from.
They don't want to talk about that, Grando. They don't want to talk about that.
I know that, but I plan on making them miserable as hell. I'm looking at my big history book right now, and that book got it all in there. And as soon as I can find out who and what and where, it's going to take me a few minutes, but I will let you know when I find out where they from. I've done worked on Trump already, which is not a big deal, but Trump really he didn't try to hide anything, but his father, hey, that's a whole different story. But, Trump is from New York, okay? Everybody in New York knew Trump. I worked with one of the agencies that worked with Trump, which was a disaster. But still, in all, you have to know where everybody is from. The Jews know their history. Palestinians know their history. Germans know their history. And they've never tried to hide it. They know who they are. They know what they did. They know how it was done and why it was done. The problem is everybody wants to deal with by the color of your skin. Now, all we got to do is find out why we got white people and why we got Black people. I know why we got Black people. My issue is where the hell did these white folks come from? And that's what I'm working on. What happened to them? Why are they who they are? So basically race is simply the color of your skin. It has nothing to do with where you're from. It's the color of your skin. Because you're lighter than I am, so that makes you much better than I am. No, it does not. See, so therefore we need to find out what happened. Why do we have two different colors in this country? Then you go to black to brown. Okay, that's just a variation of black and white. That's all. So, it's Black history. It's something that we need to delve on and deal with the entire year. And we need to find out where it came from, who did what, how we got to where we are, because people don't really want to deal with how we got here. They don't want to deal with how we became slaves to the white man. They don't want to deal with the fact that the motherland is not the motherland. That's a whole other story right there.
Yeah, they don't want to deal with. Yeah, they don't want to deal with no reparations, because when we deal with history, history, now we're going to have restitution and reparations, and there's a lot of. Yeah, there's a lot. Go ahead.
History is not pleasant. History is very hard. It's not. History is just very difficult. And you have to watch somebody like DeSantis, because he is in fact trying to destroy. This is American history. This is not African history. We're not in Africa. We're in America. So you can't change people. People in this country been here forever. My family been here since they came across on, I don't know, some black woman said, oh, I didn't know my family came over here on the Mayflower. Bitch, please. Oh, take that out.
Hey, you speaking raw, uncomfortable truth. That's what it is. You just speaking raw truth. We just got to know our history and know where we come from.
Yeah, she was on the news the other night, and Henry Louis Gates, whoever it is, found out about where her ancestry, and said that she had somebody on the Mayflower. Well, you on the Mayflower, you was a slave, so what the hell? Big deal. You rode the boat over here. Didn't say that you were somebody's daddy, mama, or girlfriend, or wife. They said you came on the boat. We all came on the boat. All right? You had just happened to come on the Mayflower. That's got nothing to do with anything. It don't make you any better than I am. You black, you were a slave. That's just the bottom line. England had a lot of slaves. I mean, they were the best of the best when it come to slave trade. They didn't even get rid of, tried not to get rid of slave trade. When Lincoln said it was illegal for slaves, we have slaves in the United States. England was not with that stuff. You know, come on. They had a lot of slaves they had to get rid of.
Yeah, speaking of slave trade, you know, everybody was part of the land slave trade. In fact, the Arabs, they did it way before the Europeans did it.
Yeah, of course they did. Of course. People just need to read the Bible. Slaves was in the Bible. You know, slavery is not new. Slavery is not old. Slavery has been here for centuries. For centuries, slavery has been here. And that's just it. You have to understand, but you don't have to do the things that a lot of slavery was because you couldn't do as well as I did. You wasn't rich. And a lot of the rich folks were slaves too. You know, you are a slave. You can be a slave to anything. Because when you look at like in Africa, there was no white man sold my ancestors to somebody black. There was somebody in the motherland, so they say. The motherland, they sold some of my ancestors for a couple of beads and a pair of shoestrings. That's what they sold them for, because the white man said you can use this, and it was a shiny object, which is why to this day I always say that's one of the reasons why we love gold and all that crap hanging around our necks and all that stuff, because the white man said, "Oh, this is for you. Look at it. It's a shiny object." So we love shiny objects. And so I sold my sisters and brothers to the white man so he could give me a handful of these shiny objects. Probably was a bunch of marbles, but I thought they were wonderful. That's how we got to be over here, and the fact that we were fighting with each other, and once as a king or whatever little tribe we were, once you had won and you had all of these people, you can't feed them, maybe you don't want to kill them, but there's a white man coming through here with a boat. You didn't know he was white. You just saw it's a man coming through here with a boat. We can sell them. They will buy these people. And so you sold us to the white man that came over here on a ship and gave you a handful of marbles and beads because they were shiny objects. You sold my family for a handful of shiny objects, and we'd still do the same damn thing. We'll kill each other to get a handful of shiny objects. How many people get killed out here today, and they take their chains, their rings, all that stuff? Look at that preacher. He's standing up in the pulpit preaching, and somebody came and took all of his shiny stuff from him.
Yeah.
Okay? So, Black history, we got to do better than what we're doing. I admire the Rev. I admire all the people that's out there trying to get back our voting rights. I work with them to the maxes. I was just on a thing today to sign for somebody running for office. I stay on them in this little town of Mount Vernon. They don't like to see me coming at City Hall. But it's another story. Anyway, we have to sort of learn not to just say, Black history was like last year or 100 years ago. We only deal with Black history up to 100 years. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, I've always noticed that. They always do Black history like, we're going back to back to the 1900s and Marcus Garvey and Booker T. Washington and W.E. Du Bois, all the way down to Malcolm X and the Black Panther Party. I'm like, yeah, what happened before? The most time they go is back to Frederick Douglass, and that's it.
Exactly, that's it. And Marcus Garvey, they might get that far. But that's it. And that's what I hate about it when we talk about we're celebrating Black History Month. No, we're not. We are really not celebrating Black History Month. We're not doing that. We're talking about stuff that was what, in the 19th century? And then we got the 20th century. That's only a couple of centuries ago. That's like 300 years ago. That ain't far away. My aunt was 102 years old when she died. So what century was she born in? Not the 20th century. She was born in the 19th century. Okay? My other aunt died. She was 104 years old. She died down there in Georgia. All my family live a long time. Don't want to tell you, but we hang around forever, okay? So, you have people here that's been here for forever, and they can tell you what the history is, but young people don't like to listen to it. They don't like to hear it. And then you may have a family that's not going to tell you about it either. But people will tell, I'm sure your family will tell you, but it's up to you to go out there and get the information, the West information. I did. That's what I had to do. I listened to them because the stories was absolutely fantastic. And I just thought, oh, man, that was exciting. So the older I got, the more I wanted to know about it. And the more, that's how you do things. And that's what our young people will lose. If DeSantis is able to do what he has to do, we will lose that. He will never be able to do that across the country. He might be able to do it in the South. He might be, but I don't think he'd ever be able to do it in Georgia. That's not going to fly. You can forget about trying to get Georgia to do it. Georgia and Alabama, that shit ain't going to work. Maybe some of them maybe Arizona. I don't know about that, but I don't think it would. I don't think it's not something that's going to work very well.
Yeah, my final thoughts on this about history and DeSantis is we have to know our history, because if you don't know it, you are doomed to repeat it. You're going to repeat it over and over and over again. You'll never learn about the mistakes the ancestors made, or the shortcomings and everything, and you won't learn you'll learn to repeat their mistakes because you won't learn anything. You have to learn about your history, learn about the culture, not just learn about what they tell you in school. Go back further than that. Go back to the ancient tribes. I'm tribe from the Galicia tribe. Go back and learn from there and see what happened. How did they get over here? All these questions you need to have answered. So my thoughts to people are this: learn your history.
Those are the things that you need to know before you can do anything. You cannot make the country better. You cannot make anything better until you know the reason why things are like they are. Everybody's all over Marjorie Taylor Greene because she wants to have red states and blue states, bless her heart. She's about that. She's not too bright either. But, you got everybody trying to. But we, as a people, we need to learn our history, because if we learn our history and learn exactly how, what, and where we did and what we did and how we did it, I think we would be ahead of the game. We would not let somebody, because DeSantis is just walking all over those black folks down there. That's my thing. He could not walk across me. When you hear people talk about woke, that is an old slave saying. I don't know why that white man don't know that. He is talking about that. It goes like this. And then I'll tell you why. It says, don't woke them, let them sleep. Now, that means, this is what it meant. When the slaves had to have an uprising, or they were going to run away, or they were going to do something to the old master, or whatever it is they were going to do. They'd see, because the white man didn't understand what they was talking about. They thought they were saying, well, he's in there asleep, so don't wake him up. What they were saying was this: you don't give away our secrets. Leave it alone. Before he wakes up, we will be gone. That's exactly what. Don't woke him, let him slap me. My mother used to tell me that I'd come in the house and give her some kind of off-the-wall story that me and one of my friends was going. She'd look at me. She said, well, I don't know about that. I said, Mom, so I said, she said, what? She said, don't bother. And we wanted to tell her that somebody's mother did X, Y. She said, well, don't woke them, let them sleep. It took the longest time to realize that my mother was saying, don't wake them up and tell them what you're doing. Just let them do it and then find out. That's exactly what that means. That woke, there's no such thing as a period. It doesn't exist. Sorry about that, guys. I wrote a long piece on that on Facebook on somebody's response on Twitter. I think they kicked me off, but I did explain to them what that meant. Does not mean what everybody is saying. There is no such thing. It's an old slave saying. When they were getting ready to have an uprising or whatever it was, they would always you tell the next one out in the field, don't woke them, let them sleep. And the overseer thought you was talking about George, who was sleeping behind the barn. Not at all. He was talking, tonight we're going to cut your effing throat, overseer. That's what they were talking about.
Yeah, I didn't know that. See, you're bringing knowledge to people. You're bringing knowledge to people. See, this is what happens on the Black Evolution. You learn about stuff that you never even thought you learned in schools. You being conscious. This is what our job is on the Black Evolution. So I want to make sure y'all thank you, Granddad, for being on here and teaching us that history. And make sure y'all tune in to the Black Evolution. We're teaching you about topics that you'll never talk about. You'll never learn this in school. Be conscious. Be woke. Let them all sleep. That's it. We the Black Evolution. We trying to evolve.